It's an essential part of Chicago's transportation system. A train network with almost 117 miles of elevated track, which gives its passengers an above-ground look at the city's loop, and travels through the storied neighborhoods of the city's north, south, and west sides. This is the Chicago L, a staple of the city for more than a century. Riding the L is a unique experience, something shared by generations of Chicagoans.
A lot of the general experience is still the same. That idea of riding through sort of backyards and the back porches of the city on a lot of our lines, or through the front windows in places like the Loop where you're passing by buildings over the street, is still very much the same experience that people would have had 100 years ago.
That experience began in the late 19th century, when Chicago was contending with growing pains.
The city was becoming more and more crowded. By this time, we were the second largest city in the country after New York, and the street congestion was terrible. We had some public transportation, cable car route, and various other forms, but it was just bedlam on the streets every day. One of the best ways to alleviate that was to go up.
Chicago decided to follow New York City's lead and build an elevated train line starting on the south side. On June 6, 1892, that line opened, traveling from Congress Street downtown to 39th Street on the south side. It was dubbed the L, short for elevated, and was always spelled with one single letter L in quotes. That train was an instant success, and it was soon expanded to go farther south in 1893, so passengers could ride it to the World's Fair, staged in Jackson Park. The very first L car, car number 1, is still around and on display at the Chicago History Museum.
It was originally a steam-powered line. Electricity was still considered very experimental, and steam locomotives were used on that line until 1898, when they retired the steam locomotives and converted passenger cars to be self-propelled using electricity.
The L was so popular that other train lines were built in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to serve the city's downtown and its north and west sides. In 1924, those lines merged under one company, the privately owned Chicago Rapid Transit Company. Around the same time, a new L car was introduced, the Series 4000, which served Chicago for an astounding 50 years before finally being retired in 1973. The expansion of the Chicago L is partially credited for the growth of Chicago in the early 20th century.
As the system expanded outward, then more housing would develop along those lines. And of course, being close to transportation, it's ideal if you can have your residence or your business close to an L line.
The money-losing Chicago Rapid Transit Company was taken over by a government agency known as the Chicago Transit Authority in 1947. And the system was supplemented with 2 subway lines in the 1940s and 50s, and 3 lines built in the median of Chicago's new expressways in the 1950s and 60s. At the same time, some elevated structures were dismantled due to poor ridership numbers. But many of the elevated structures built over 100 years ago remain in the city today. It's become one of the identifying features of Chicago, showcased in hundreds of movies.
How often does a train go by? So often you won't even notice it.
Like the Blues Brothers, where Jake and Elwood Blues lived adjacent to the L, and Risky Business, where Tom Cruise and Rebecca De Mornay famously made love on an empty L car. In 2005, Chicago Tribune readers voted it as one of the 7 wonders of Chicago.
It's lasted for a few reasons. The infrastructure has lasted. With periodic maintenance and refurbishment, really it's continued to function very well. And so it's an investment that I think at the end of the day has not been worth scrapping and replacing with something else.